We are still in the summer. We still got a few days left, but the temperature dropped to like 50 degrees overnight. It was crazy cold. Anyway, we are hiking again. So what I want to talk about today is sort of a type of request that I hate the most. Whenever I get asked to do that, or whenever I even hear someone talking about it, I always like cringe, and I always go like, oh, no, 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 you don't want to do that. Or when someone sends me a request and asking me to do it on my team, I always go like, hey, why do you want to do it? Why? What's the reasoning behind it? Maybe there is a better way. Maybe there is something else we can do instead of that. So what am I talking about? So what is that type of request I'm talking about? And it is whenever someone asks for an export of the data and they want to either mirror original folder structure on the export, or they want to match original file names of the original eDocs in the export, or sometimes take it as far as do both. Take a subset of data and export it out in the original folder structure with original file names. Ugh, why is it that I hate it so much? Number one reason for hating these types of requests is long file names and long file paths. These long file names and paths may not exist in the original data, and they may not exist in the data when it's stored on the server. However, when you perform an export, now you're putting data into a number of other subfolders, such as your client name, your meta name, maybe an export number, and now you could start to max out those file name and file paths limit. And of course, you don't expect it until you actually do it, right? And then you look at it, everything seems fine, and you start exporting, and you go, oh, files are missing, you can't figure out where they are, and turn out to be that the file folder structure is too deep, and you just can't save those files, and you can't replicate them in that folder structure. And so then you figure out that the issue you had is because of the long paths. So in order to fix it, now you have to export data to a folder that's not as deep on your server. So you make a folder for that export right on the root of your drive, not inside the client folder. And it just becomes a mess because you can't move it in the right folder, or there's some other problem there. So long paths are definitely one of the issues that comes up with this type of request. Hey, look, I found some turtles. They're like chilling in the sun, warming up a little bit. Let me zoom in, hang on. Right there. Wait, focus. There we are. Look at those cute little turtles. I think there's a baby turtle crawling on top of an adult turtle. Now the second reason are duplicate file names. And sometimes clients will ask you to just export a bunch of native files, and they say just put them in one folder. Or they may say convert this to PDF and put them in a folder and zip it up. We don't want the subfolder structure. And you'll say, well, what if they're duplicate file names? So they'll say, what duplicate file names? Didn't you guys do deduplication? Well, you could still have different files with the same name, or you could have attachments. They were attached to different main email and so on. So there are lots of reasons why you could have duplicate file names. So that also comes up sometimes, and when you get that error message saying, oh, do you want to overwrite? Or sometimes you will just get a file count that's less, and then you're trying to figure out like what happened, why there are less files in the folder. Well, because original had some duplicative names, and you just can't export them all to one folder. So now you have to find other ways of doing it, make it copy one or something like that. So you have to find the workaround for that, and you have to call back to the client and explain and all that stuff. So that's never fun. You know, this bridge and the whole hiking trail and all the bridges are totally not COVID-19 compliant. I don't know, everything's like super narrow and everyone's really close to each other. I guess it's outdoors, so it's okay. All right, let's keep going. See what I mean about not COVID-19 compliant? The third reason I don't like these types of requests is the sort order. The order you see files in the File Explorer is not the same order it will be processed in the processing software. File Explorer usually tries to sort files that are not zero filled and try to make them look nice. However, processing software or directory list or something else doesn't do that. So if you create any kind of cross-reference file, files will appear out of order. Also, if you have Bates number in documents and then you give client files in the original folder structure, they may not be sorted alphabetically how they see them. So when they open up a first file in a folder, it may not have a base number of 1, and then you're gonna get that call back, hey, you guys did this all out of order, this is all wrong. And that is really frustrating to explain to a client, like, look, your File Explorer tries to automatically sort it for you, but the processing software does not. And they're like, well, can you redo it, sorting it the way I like it, and can you zero fill it? It's like, oh. All right, so enough complaining. What do you actually do? What do I practically do in this situation? The first question I ask, what are you going to be doing with your data? Will you be loading this data into some kind of processing system? And if they say yes, then I offer an industry standard load file. Sometimes they don't even know this option exists. And you could say, look, we're not going to name it that way. We'll create a dat file that will contain all the metadata, that contains folder structure, file names, and so on. And we'll give you files sequentially numbered, nicely organized, and maybe you could see if that will work for you better. And the next thing I suggest is just to export files with a control number and give them a cross-reference file, like an Excel or a DAT file. And I try to explain, like, if the files are named by a control number and you want to produce something, you can give us those control numbers and it'll be easier for us to identify them. And sometimes they agree to that. Now, if they do absolutely insist on having an original file name as part of an export file name, as the export PDF name or something else, I recommend having a doc ID underscore an original file name. And I explained to a client this will help you eliminate duplicates that could be present in the file names, as well as allow you to tell us a control number of a file so we could reference it in case there is a problem with processing or you need to produce documents later. And if you think duplicate file names at the export is not a big deal, and you think we got it all figured out by now, I will share you a fun fact. As of September 2020, there is a very popular forensic software out there that uses original file names when they export, when they do export to a folder. And what that software does is it finds files with a duplicate file name. It just overwrites it over. So whenever you have two different files with the same name, they get overwritten and the client gets a link to basically our own file. And this is super popular forensic software that exists right now. I mean, it's crazy that no one thought of this. All right, well, I think that's enough of me talking about duplicate file names and complaining about possibly the worst type of request. And this is still not really the worst type of request. This is one of the worst. I think the worst one still goes to export entire production into one giant PDF. This is probably the second worst request. Yeah, I think we're done with this hike. It's been fun and exciting. Lots of variety of terrain. And now we have cows. Oh yeah, there are cows on the hiking trail right up ahead. Let's go check them out. All right, those are the cows. That's my video. Let me know what you guys think. Are there worse type requests than this? Let me know. Share it in the comment section below. And I will try to cross this street safely. See you guys later.